You know, you're going to get sculpin off that wall, you're going to get your calico bass. But again, what I said earlier on, points are very important. They always pick off some current. All these points right here. Given this is the main channel where your Catalina flyer comes out of, there's a Queen Mary, by the way. That main channel, you get your bonita coming in there every now and again, and they come in and work the bait that's in this main channel, especially off these little points. The wind blows, the wind comes out of the west this way right here for the most part. So if you're out here, this is a good area to tuck in behind if you want to go fishing and the wind happens to blow. So, you know, again, 365 days a year we can fish our local waters, apart from, you know, some of the days on a boat. You would launch, you can either launch up at San Pedro area right here, or Los Alamitos. There's Los Alamitos Bay right there. David's launch ramp is going to be your closest.
That's it, yeah. And from there to the Queen is what, 200 yards?
On a float tube?
Yeah.
If you're on a float,
a kayak.
A kayak? Well, you would launch your kayak along any part of this beach over here.
Okay.
Along Belmont Shore.
Okay.
So, I mean, the closest point would be over here where Grissom Island is, and that's probably a mile, half a mile, yeah, 3/4 of a mile.
Oh, okay.
If you're fishing the rest of LA Harbor, Long Beach Harbor, just be careful. Some of the areas restricted. But again, there's a lot of shelter inside there if you happen to go out and you get caught in any wind. This is a picture of one of those islands. Now, if you notice, there's a tug. You get these service boats coming visiting these islands, and they push around oil tankers, trucks. While these boats sit there, they have their engines going the whole time to keep that barge tied up against the wharf where these boats come onto. If you can get around these boats, you don't want to get too close, but this boat is churning up the bottom the whole time. And if you move in there quickly and you fish a chartreuse clouser or a yellow clouser, sometimes you get yellowfin croaker, you get your halibut, but you want something bright that they can see. These points, again, this is west facing point right here. You move a little closer, you can barely see the kelp there.
Yeah.
Kelp. But the kelp comes off these islands maybe about 15-20 feet. So if you can position your boat or your kayak out there, a good 60 to 80 foot, make a nice long cast. This water here that we're fishing in is going to be, you know, again 26 to 30 feet depending on the tide. Let it sink down to the bottom, real slow crawl to the boat. If you don't get bit there, you're going to get bit when your fly line is directly below your craft. A lot of times those sand bass will follow that fly all the way out till you start that jigging motion up to the boat and you get hammered. And before you do that, it's always good just to jig the line up and down. There's a picture of my fish finder. There are these heads of kelp that grow off the bottom as well, which low light conditions you won't see them, but middle of the day if you cruise up to those islands you'll see these heads of kelp that grow up off the bottom. They, for the most part, hold the big sand bass. There's one right there. He doesn't want to come up to the surface all the way. This is bait fish right here. You can see we're in 27 feet of water right there. And as far as leaders go, you don't need a tapered leader when you fish any of these spots. Throw that away and just fish straight mono. Start off the day with maybe about a 9-foot piece of 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. You don't want to fish anything lighter in these harbors. There's a lot of structure down there, and a lot of times when you hook those big sand bass, like Shane did, they all go back in their hard out, and it's tough to get them out. So,
What kind of fluorocarbon?
15 to 20. That's what I fish with all the time. I mean, it's insurance that you're going to get it up.
Yeah.
So the only one that you said the fish lighter was the one down at Newport.
Correct. Yeah, in the
5
bays. Yeah.
Okay.
6 pound preferably. I fish 6 pound all the time, and it works great. Every now and again, you may lose a fish to its teeth, but pretty much 6 pound is definitely the way to go.
Okay. So that's the exception.
So there's another sand bass caught in the same area. This is on a sculpin pattern. This sand bass here that I caught regurgitated this right here. This is called a goby. It's pretty much we mimic that, which are sculpin patterns. And these gobies are everywhere. They dart around the rocks, the kelp. For the most part, in our area, they're the orange and browns. Not a great picture though, but anyhow, that bass regurgitated that, and I caught him on this fly right here. So Pretty much right on the money as far as mimicking what you needed. Another sand bass with a sculpin pattern in. Most of the flies that I fish around Long Beach, the breakwall, or even in Newport, most of them I have weed guards on. And you're going to lose a lot less flies having a weed guard. 30-pound monofilament, fluorocarbon as a weed guard, best used. Right, the wall, everyone's heard about the breakwall, right? AKA the wall. You've got the Long Beach section, and you've got the Federal breakwall section, which is in the middle, and then PV is up this area. So breakwall runs for about 7.5 miles. So you can imagine you've got a lot of fishing on both sides. There are certain areas that fish better than others. And that would be these areas right here. This is a chart, obviously, of the Long Beach area. This is your topo lines, which show you a different depth. And in these particular areas right here, on a larger swell, what it does is it pushes the sand up against the breakwall, and it pushes it out on the other side. So on a larger swell, which I'll show you later, there's a lot more water moving around, and those sculpin flies have worked great there fishing the wall. That turbulent water loosens the goby fish, your shrimp, etc. off the wall. The other key things you need to look for, typically on the Long Beach side of the breakwall, the water's going to be warmer, it's going to be dirtier. The further west you go, it's going to be cleaner. The further west you go, as well, you're going to get less swell coming in, because Point Furman, which is San Pedro side, it blocks this through here. And what you'll find, because it blocks it, you get less surf. The kelp grows off the wall a lot further than you would find down here. The water's cleaner too, so with that kelp that grows off the wall a little deeper, you fish around those heads again of kelp, and you can get lucky with some big calico bass. Temperature too, when I'm fishing the wall, some days this may be ½ degree warmer than up here. That make a big difference in fishing the wall. So there's not one area that fishes better than the other. Some days the inside fishes better than the outside. Depending on your current, your winds. The nice thing about fishing the wall too, you can fish it pretty much all day long. In the morning you can fish the outside when there's no wind. Later on in the afternoon you can move to the inside because it's protected. This is the wall, this is Queen's Gate entrance. And if you can visualize, the wall is kind of pyramid shaped, like that. So when you fish it, position your boat or your craft, kayak, at least 60 feet off the wall. Make a long cast so it hits the edge of the bricks. And that first pulse of your fly is really important. The way the calico bass eyes are structured, they're on top of their head, so they're looking up the whole time, they're not looking down. So they'll be backed in that kelp or backed in those rocks. So immediately after you make that first cast, it hits the water, pulse it once. A lot of times you get hit on that first cast. If you don't, let it sink and strip it again. And the wall is kind of shaped like this, like I said, a pyramid. So you want to step it down. And the whole time, if you can keep in contact with the structure, it's really important. If you're not getting snagged every now and again, or you're not losing a fly, you're not in the right place. It's pretty nasty down there. Again, certain times of the year, you find that early in the spring, your fish will move up on the rocks in their spawning stage, the pre-spawn. This time of the year, you'll find most of your fish off the rocks a little bit down in the deeper water. Your average depth along the breakwall is going to be 50 feet. So again, if you make that long cast up to the bricks, if you don't get bit coming off the wall, make sure you pull it up straight below your craft, because a lot of times, that fish will be straight down and you'll be sitting in those rocks below you. So you've got a good chance of getting the sand bass and calico bass too. Other species you get on the breakwall are going to be white sea bass, halibut. That's more of a luck right there. This is another picture of the wall. Now the reveal on the wall is normally 10 to 13 feet depending on the size of your tide. Orange and brown clouser again, or that sculpin pattern, orange and brown. right there. Got a weed guard. That's on a 8-weight Helios Mirage reel. There's a 3-pound bass. Your overcast conditions on the break wall also key. They keep the fish up a little higher. Especially, this time of the year, your bite's going to be first thing in the morning at gray light or dark to gray light, and again in the evening. So use the clouds to your advantage on a cloudy day. This particular day, the swell was big on the outside, so I had 3 guys on the boat. We were fishing the inside of the wall, and that pre-spawn time, very good fishing for the bass. We must have got 60 to 80 fish in half a morning between 3 persons. This is an opal eye. For the most part, they're vegetarian. I don't know if you guys ever heard about people catching them on green peas in the harbors and stuff, but fun fighting fish. You don't get a lot of them. I think this year you must have got half a dozen on the fly. They ate sculpin pattern, orange and brown. Fight really good. This doesn't really show the size of the fish. Now, this guy's a 6'10", huge big basketball hands. They made the fish look a little small. This is the first time saltwater on the inside of the break wall. First cast. That's Mr. December right there. Another orange and brown clouser right there. We're fishing the inside of the break wall. There's a nice calico for break wall. We're fishing the outside this particular day, and you see 20-pound fluorocarbon. This big fish swallowed that little sculpin pattern all the way down. And a lot of the takes, when you're fishing these calico bass on the break wall, in the summertime they're more aggressive. They'll come up and hit it. This time of the year, through early spring, that bite, you may feel like you're hung up on the rock. So keep on stripping, and what that fish does is that's getting the fly in front of the fish's mouth, and he's just slurping it in, and that's that thud you feel. So, keep on that strip. Don't pick up on it. This is the inside of the break wall. Now this is one of those areas I showed you earlier on, the surge coming through the break wall. And what that allows you to do, it pushes the kelp that grows off the wall, pushes it off the wall. So if you're sitting where we are right here, you can get behind that. And all the bass are waiting over there, waiting for those loose critters to come through the wall. Right, inshore. Everything beyond the break wall. Most of the water you fish in this area is going to be 60 to 80 feet. Now it is tough with the fly. It's tough to get down there. Obviously on windy days you don't want to fish out there. But there's hundreds of little rocks, and these little rocks may be this size to maybe the size of this room, or wrecks, reefs, strewn around this area.